Thank you for the opportunity to brief the committee about the progress of implementing autonomous emergency braking and improving driver training. So, autonomous emergency braking is the next step in truck braking technology. The potential safety benefits are massive. A reduction in fatal crashes of up to 25% and serious injury crashes of up to 17%. Now, the Infrastructure Department is working on the regulatory impact statement for mandating this technology, but there were significant problems with the electronic stability control RIS that need to be addressed before the emergency braking process goes too far. So, on ESC, the new stability control requirements do not cover most rigid trucks. These requirements are projected to save 126 lives and avoid 1,101 serious injuries. If the requirements were extended to all trucks weighing more than 4.5 tonnes, an additional 22 lives could be saved and an extra 395 serious injuries could be avoided. This would cost truck purchasers an extra $112 million over 35 years. $112 million over 35 years. The cost is trivial compared to the benefits. Using willingness to pay values, it would deliver a benefit-cost ratio of 2.24, an entirely acceptable benefit-cost ratio. It's more, for example, than the benefit-cost ratio of requiring electronic stability control for new passenger cars. So, in the ATO's view, the Department and the Government must revisit the decision not to require ESC for rigid trucks. Second, base the RIS recommendation on emergency braking on achieving the highest number of lives saved and injuries avoided at reasonable cost. And finally, use willingness to pay values for both the cost of fatalities and the cost of serious injuries. The ESC RIS understated the benefits of this safety technology because it did not value the cost of serious injuries appropriately. So, to turn now to truck driver licensing and training, and I know this is a subject that is very important to the committee and it is important to us.
This one or the next one, right?
So, training. You recommended that the Heavy Vehicle Driver Competency Framework Review should raise the standard required of both heavy vehicle drivers and instructors. The Austroads report has now been completed, and it wasn't complete at the time of your report. It's a public document, but I've provided copies to the committee. This report really shows that the situation is every bit as bad as the committee and as bad as the ATA thought. It found that the current approach has created a race to the bottom. It looked, as an example, at the existing heavy rigid licensing unit. It found that that unit only covers 4 out of 10 identified safety risks. The report found that the median length of time for training for a licence was 10 to 20 hours, with the Victorian government, which has put together recommended times, recommending 40 to 60 hours of training. Now, the report concedes that its estimate of the median time that people actually spend training is probably an overestimate. So 10 to 20 hours is their estimate, but they concede it's probably too high.
Scary.
So Austroads is now preparing a second report to identify what can be done to increase national uniformity. The ATA believes there needs to be national leadership on, firstly, upgrading the driver licensing standards and increasing the emphasis on what you might call roadcraft, the skills that truckies like Senator Sterle has, the ability to perceive hazards, for example, not just the technical control of the vehicle. Second, mandating minimum training hours for truck drivers, in the same way that Victoria and Queensland have minimum training hours if you're learning to ride a motorbike. So one of our members, Deca Training, trains drivers for more than 100 hours as part of its superior heavy vehicle licensing program. That seems to be a good place to start. Trainers should be provided with support material they have to use, and there needs to be standardised requirement for heavy vehicle driver trainers and assessors. Now, it's worth reflecting, in conclusion, that the current debate about truck driver training started in 2015, following the coronial investigations into the fatal crashes on the Crafers descent, where industry argued that the training standard for steep descent driving should be increased. The committee, you looked very closely at the February 2016 M5 incident, which highlighted significant problems with the training and assessment delivered by the RTO system. You yourselves issued your final report on your inquiry into aspects of road safety more than a year ago. So the only conclusion I can reach is that this process of improving truck driver licensing and training needs to be speeded up. So thank you, committee. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. McKinley.